Hi, everyone. I'm going to re-record my advanced lab testing and biohacking webinar. I had done this previously, and I was sharing this with all of my clients, either new clients, current clients, past clients, because I wanted to talk about all of the options out there. And I think it can feel really confusing about what is the best option for you, where do you start? And so I wanted to break it down. The funny thing is we always talk about stress, we always talk about healthy habits, and my recording actually stopped in the very beginning of it. I think like maybe 20, 30 minutes in, and it lasted just over an hour because I think I had too many tabs open and my browser was like, we ran out of space. And I think that's kind of a funny just metaphor for life, right? If we have all the tabs open and we're trying to focus on all the different things, then we don't have enough like working memory to focus on the things that really matter. So I was like, wow, that's a good metaphor for me, for life, and also for me to share with you in the very beginning of this. So as you are thinking through all of these options, I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. I want you to realize that there are options. We can really do a deep dive into what is going on into your life, whether it's stress, whether it's gut health, whether it's hormones, whether it's toxins, all these things could be possible. And yet, focusing on the things that matter are going to move the needle the most in getting you the results and feeling better. So, that's what my program is about. We focus on the core four: nutrition, diet, exercise. Um, nutrition and diet is together, then exercise, then sleep and hydration. That's the core four. We talk about systems, we talk about mindset. Those are also really important as well. So, this is like the next level. It's not for everyone. So listen to it with that lens of I don't have to do everything to still get results. But if you are ready to dive deeper, then that could be an option for you. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I'll pull it up, I'll put it in present mode, and we will jump in and get started. All right, so advanced lab tests and biohacking, chatting through all of the options without feeling overwhelmed. Okay. I have been working on really clarifying my mission because I want to help you, especially you, because you're listening. I want to really revolutionize women's health. I can't help everyone, right? That's not realistic. But I eventually want to help thousands of busy, high performing women to heal at the root level. And I want to use a functional medicine approach. So I talk a lot about the basics because they are the most important thing, but this is also important too. So even if you don't do the lab testing, know that I'm always looking at your information, the feedback you're giving me, the things you're logging to have a functional medicine approach because I want you to reclaim your energy, your confidence, your vitality. And this is like not measurable at all, but I want you to help make the world a better place because when we as women show up, our families are happier, we're better and more productive at work. And like, I don't think all of the issues would be happening if all the women were just more aligned with how we should be feeling. So I won't go political or anything there, but I think we can make the world a better place if we feel better. So know that that's where I'm coming from here. Today's agenda, we're going to talk through just a quick overview of why this matters, but we're really going to spend a lot more time talking about the actual lab test options, who they are for, why would you want them, and looking at actual test results to understand what they can tell you. We'll also talk about biohacking 101 and my favorites. I'm doing this before Black Friday because there's some sales coming up and you might want to take advantage of them and have just a more informed understanding of what you are looking for and brands and just different things, just showing it all to you. I also want to talk about in full transparency how I can support you at this deeper level. I've been developing this next level 2.0 program. My regular program is called Metabolic Rehab Protocol. That's the intro program. This is the next level program called Metabolic Mastery 2.0. So it's just the next level for people who want to do that deeper dive. Okay. Being very transparent about all of this, ultimately trying to support you. So my coaching entails, let me move my face a little bit. My coaching entails for everybody, those core four. I already talked about that. We talk a lot about mindset. We talk a lot about systems. There is that option for lab testing. And that's true for even those in my group coaching program. and of course my one-on-one program. So you could do this at any point while you're enrolled. You could come back later after we stop working together and ask about the tests. This is optional at any point. You also don't have to do it. So knowing that's there. When we go through all of this, these are the three things that we're encompassing. So I'm not just, and I say that, with love to all those who are, I'm not a macros coach. I'm not a health coach just, right? We're not looking at numbers and if you're hitting your specific macro goals or calorie goals. We're looking at overall health. And we're also looking at mindset. And we're also looking at systems because I want you to have a less stressed out life because that impacts your hormones, right? Like all of these things integrate together. So we look at all of it. We do focus, of course, a lot on the health part. Updates as we are shifting. I'm making some shifts on my end. My course was formerly called the Breakthrough Burnout Method. And then I realized like my clients aren't using the word burnout necessarily. They're probably using the word stress and overwhelm. And as I was having two types of clients come in, I had my story and I was like, well, everyone's going to have a very similar story, right? That's not true. So my story, and you might know this, you might not. My story was that I'd never been a super fit person. I didn't really diet, exercise, have good habits growing up, and I started learning about that as I got older and in my 20s. And so I started dieting, but I really had no clue what I was doing. And I was skipping meals and I was super stressed out. And then I was binge eating because I thought I had the extra calories. I just didn't have great habits in place. And so when I put my shit together. I lost weight really quickly. I lost 27 pounds in 3 months. I kept it off for the most part, like doing some cycling very intentionally, but I had success quickly. And I'm learning as I've worked with many, many more clients since then. Not everyone is going to see that success. Some clients have been dieting for years. They've been restricting their calories for years. And when they go to start working with me, they are not in a true calorie deficit. And we figured that out pretty quickly. They're not losing weight. And so it might take some time and some tweaking. But what we end up doing is we actually put them in a reverse diet to begin with, compared to doing that later on. And so know that now I have a lot more experience and I am used to working with these clients, even though they might have a different story than me. And so we are really focusing on metabolism from different areas. And that's why I've renamed my course and my program the Metabolic Rehab Protocol. So giving you that context. My online course probably says Breakthrough Burnout Method in a couple places. So if you hear it, just know that that's where it's coming from. But a lot of what I was teaching hasn't changed. I've just, in customized protocols, become a little more specific. So I hope that helps. Also, I've been adding on additional certifications, adding on different lab tests that I can help really clue into what's going on. Like I've added a perimenopause test to see yes or no, are you in perimenopause or menopause? What are hormones doing there? I've added additional testing for like melatonin levels in addition to cortisol to look at sleep. I can look at different environmental toxins, and now I can look at mold. So there are additional things I can look at because there might be more than one like root cause. So we can go there too. So let's dive in to the what, right? Like here's that overview. It's just a couple slides of where I'm trying to help people move. A lot of people come to me and they're like, I want to lose weight. I'm like, cool. I can totally help you with that. You know that, right? You might have come in saying the same thing. And then you might have said, oh, I have no energy. Oh, I have a lot of bloating, right? And those are pretty common to what I hear. Yet, when when we are doing this, we're not only doing this in a calorie deficit, we're also healing the root cause. That might be mindset. You might have this feeling of, I don't deserve to feel better. You might have some limiting beliefs. That might be the root cause that causes you to be constantly stressed and busy and overwhelmed. That actually could be your root cause. It could possibly be gut health. You could have bacterial or mold overgrowth or yeast overgrowth. You could have hormones that are all over the place, right? So we could dive deeper, but there is something deeper than I want to lose weight, right? Like there's something more than that. And so I come in it with this very holistic view with, I don't know, 20 years of education now, of high level education, deep into science, and really help you do this. So I'm going to talk about lab testing. We're going to talk about these hidden imbalances. You might not even know this was an option, and I just want to tell you about it. So know that, yes, I come in with a lot of information and knowledge. I'm also not a doctor and I'm not a nurse. That is not part of my training. My training did include like lab bench science. I worked in a fume hood. I was on a PhD track. I ended up getting my master's because I didn't want to work in that fume hood or write grants to have job security for the rest of my life or to manage students in a lab. That wasn't my goal. I love looking at data, I think is the part that you can take away. Like, I love science. I love the data. I love the molecular pathways and understanding why. That is what my degree is in. But I'm not a doctor. So I am not someone who's going to say, oh, you have diabetes. I'm going to prescribe you insulin or even like the pills or looking at that. I'm not going to say, oh, you have high cholesterol. Let's take a statin to mask that symptom. And I think conventional modern medicine has a place, right? When you get into a car accident and you need to go to the ER, I'm so glad to have modern medicine there. Even when my kids get ear infections and they're in pain and they're screaming and they have a fever, I get them antibiotics. But before we get to that stage of needing that doctor to intervene and give us a prescription, I think there's a lot we can do that is very preventative in order to not even get to that point. And that comes down to our food, and it comes down to moving our body, and it comes down to drinking water, and it comes down to sleeping, and it comes down to dialing in other things that we can control so that we can know about these imbalances before they become disease. We can regulate our metabolism and our hormones or toxins or stress. Like, we can work on that before it becomes full blown, I need an antidepressant, becomes a full blown, I don't know if I can make it through the day, full blown, need a statin, whatever. You have heart disease, like all of these things that honestly the average American is dealing with. We don't have to get there if we can take 5 steps back and be like, let's prevent it before it happens. And so these tests make it a lot easier to uncover what's actually happening, what your body truly needs, like probably more nutrients, figuring out exactly how to personalize your nutrition. So testing, not guessing. I have blood work coming up on Monday. I just picked up the paperwork and I was like, can we run a hormone and thyroid panel? She's like, well, you're going to have to go to your OBGYN to get your hormone panel and you will do thyroid. And so I looked and there was only one thyroid marker, but I want to look at all four. And why didn't we do that? It's like, I should be able to ask for this. My regular doctor wouldn't even do this for me. And I've been literally seeing her since I was, I don't know, under 10. I've been seeing her for over 30 years, and she still is not providing this information for me that I'm asking for. So I'm trying to make this information accessible to you. This is going to look overwhelming. I know that. You're looking at 11 different possible tests. There's actually more than this. These are the like top 11, if you will. There's a lot of information we can look at. And the answer is not to get all of these 11 tests and start there. Truly, the answer is probably to start with one or maybe two of them. Stress, mood, metabolism is my favorite one if you are looking at stress, if you have different mood levels, and if you want to lose weight because you're curious about metabolism. So this is the one I start almost everyone with. The other one is a gut health test, and I always start with this one. So maybe 2 tests out of these. Okay. There are other places we can go. There are other questions we can ask. And I do this on obviously a very custom case-by-case basis, looking at your symptoms, looking at your goals, making sure it makes sense for you. So let's dive into them. I'm going to talk about a few. This is the one that I start with because these are the people that I tend to talk with the most. I should go back one. The stress mood metabolism test is almost identical to the women's menopause and fertility. There's one distinct difference. This one measures insulin. This one measures other female hormones to say yes or no, you are in menopause or perimenopause or not, you are still ovulating. It also gives you fertility markers. If that is of interest, that's the main distinction there, but otherwise they're pretty similar. They both look at cortisol, they both look at the female hormones, and they both look at thyroid. So a lot of information there, but there's a couple of distinctions. So you'll see me talk about both of them. We'll start with this one. I'm going to show you some lab results. They come from my own lab results. They come from my family's lab results, but they also come from other clients, not including anyone's names to keep it anonymous. But I'm going to give you some case studies of what this might actually show up and look like. So why would you take the stress, mood, and metabolism test? Number one, you want to understand what's happening below the surface, particular to stress, thyroid, metabolism. This is going to help you understand what triggers do we need to pull in order to help you get weight loss results quicker, more energy quicker, more mood stable quicker. Here are the symptoms that you might experience. You're tired and wired, so before bed you can't fall asleep because your mind's racing, or maybe you're up throughout the night as well. You experience afternoon crashes where your energy just bottoms out, stubborn weight gain, and especially around that belly. You have poor sleep, mood swings, high or low, could be kind of OCD tendencies as well, or overall thyroid symptoms, hypothyroidism. Even if your labs are normal, but you have the symptoms, that could indicate something's going on. So thinning hair, cold hands or feet, things like that. Okay, here are a few. And as I realize, these are actually the same. So there's two lab results here. So what I'm looking at in these two different lab results are the female hormones, estrogen, estradiol, progesterone, the ratio between those two, testosterone and DHEA. DHEA is actually the precursor hormone that makes all the others. So, but it's included there because if that's low, then of course your other hormones will be low. But it's interesting if it's not low and the other hormones are low because there's something going on in that feedback pattern. What do we do about it? Generally, we're going to adjust nutrition because that's going to impact your hormones. We're going to adjust exercise, especially for things like testosterone, because strength training actually increases testosterone. We're also possibly going to do some supplements because we want to regulate them. And sometimes a detox is helpful, especially when there's it doesn't show the ratio here, but if you're very estrogen dominant, perhaps your liver is not functioning properly in order to detoxify extra estrogen, in which case we need to metabolize it better. We need to make your liver function better. So let's dive into these test results. In this case, the first one up here, they're low on everything. This person feels super low. They're not getting just optimal anything in life because life is feeling just really hard. All of their hormones are low. Okay. In this case, I would probably say, hey, we need to take some DHEA, potentially some progesterone and estrogen support. Maybe, and see how it goes. But definitely starting with a DHEA supplement of like maybe 12 to 16 weeks. Nothing is ever long term. I just want you to see results and feel better as soon as possible. So I'm giving you all of the possible recommendations. But then we look at this second test, and their estrogen was really high, and their progesterone was like not even there. It was off the charts low. Their testosterone was a little elevated, but their DHEA was like a low optimal. So that was very interesting because they're making DHEA. They're elevated in testosterone. So they actually need this T quench because they're making too much testosterone and too much estrogen. This tells me their like liver is a little more sluggish than it should be. We need to really focus in on nutrition, but also things like stress. This person is probably feeling like super low, like adrenal fatigue. This person is probably not feeling optimal, but they're probably having things like night sweats and more like menopause markers, but they're not. If they have high estrogen, they're probably not anywhere close to menopause because that's a low estrogen. So it's very interesting to see that there are definitely things we want to optimize. Okay, then the next part of this test, we look at cortisol. So this was the old lab, and now it looks more like this, but they're telling us a very similar thing. This one, I put this example here. It's a different client. They were off the charts high in cortisol at all points through the day. I've never seen it that high. That is like typically 5.9 is what I see. Like that'd be in the optimal range, right? But they were off the charts. So they were super stressed. They were really high performing. This person was an executive. They owned a business. They were very, had a lot going on, let's say. But you would also see this for things like surgeons, like people in the ER, like doctors that are high stress and high performance. they might have a really similar pattern here. This person was fairly optimal in morning and noon. So if you notice, I should have broken this down: morning, noon, evening, and night, like night right before bed, and then total. So these are earlier in the day. You want to look at the whole day because you might have a really high cortisol response in the morning, right when you wake up. That's interesting. What can we do to optimize that? There are things to do, like take the phones away and have a more slow morning routine. Take maybe the coffee away and move it past breakfast. There are things we could do. But usually where I see it is actually like this test result showed, and it's usually before bed. So this is that tired and wired. Cortisol is there. Your melatonin isn't as high as it should be to help your brain turn off and fall asleep. So what do? We talk about stress, we talk about nutrition, all the things that we would talk about anyway, but there are some supplements that we can also add in the short term as we work on lifestyle. And then the last part of this test looks at thyroid markers, two different ways to see it. They're both saying similar things. And then I'll move my picture so you can see this. This one includes those metabolism markers. So thyroid, when I go to my physical and they do blood work, they are only looking at TSH. But TSH is actually the last thing I want to look at. I want to look at T4 and T3 because they're free. They're more in the bloodstream. They're more easily accessible. And we want to make sure we know what's going on in that state because that's the conversion of how our body is actually using it. I also want to look at the TPO antibodies. This is going to be an indicator, and both labs that I'm showing you here, like, sure, these look optimal, but their TPO antibodies are out of range. Same thing down here. This one is like off the charts out of range. And both of those indicate I am not a doctor, I can't diagnose, but they're probably bordering, if not full on Hashimoto's, and they need to really make a change or they're going to fall into adrenal fatigue and have a breakdown and really fall apart, and their body is feeling it. And so that was really insightful information that, hey, we need to make some big changes. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to keep going at this rate. So stress was really key for them. Nutrition was really key. And in this case, thyroid support, because I want to add selenium and iodine, and I want to support your thyroid. Okay. The last part is looking at insulin and A1C markers. So insulin, that looks green, but for me, that's high. I want to see it below an 8. This is telling me that they're not bordering on prediabetes. A doctor's not going to diagnose that, but I think they have a lot of work to do with their blood sugar ranges. So we want to make sure they're eating a stable 3 meals a day, not snacking, not late night, having not too much sugar, but like enough for energy, right? Like we talk about all of these things in the program, but here's the number to like back that up. Same with A1C. In this case, it was more in that optimal range. Okay, so summarizing the stress, mood, and metabolism test, we looked at cortisol, all the hormones, the thyroid markers, and insulin and blood sugar trends, kind of writing it down there for you. There's that similar test that I mentioned. It was similar. It wasn't identical. It was like had most of those things where it had the hormones, the cortisol, and the thyroid, but not insulin. And it added in those fertility markers. So anti-Müllerian hormone, LH, luteinizing hormone, and FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, to test for fertility and whether you are in peri or menopause, and like, what do we do about that? Okay, so a little bit different results, a little bit different overall interpretation, but a lot of similarities as well. There are other tests that we can do, and those are more focused on gut health and detox pathways. This is huge as well. So hormones are key. I actually think everyone should be looking at their hormones. But if I were to do like a very close second, this Candida metabolic and vitamins test is a close second of the one I like to look at, because I can't look at you and say you have bacterial overgrowth or yeast overgrowth. Where if you're having night flashes or hot flashes at night, or you are tired and wired and you can't fall asleep, I can look at those symptoms without even doing the test and we can make changes. But just because you're like, I'm bloating, that doesn't give me a very specific, oh, here's what's going on and here's what to do about it. So this is almost, I would say, almost more important to test for if you have those particular symptoms. So let's go through the symptoms: bloating, constipation, diarrhea, acne, sugar cravings, fatigue after meals, brain fog, sinus issues, frequently sick, or you have immune issues, autoimmune issues even are included here, or you're doing everything right and still not feeling well. That's like a lot of the symptoms that I'm hearing as well. So I cannot look at you, I cannot hear the symptoms and be like, it's definitely this. Where if you're saying I have hot flashes or I'm tired but wired, like I can much more easily, if that makes sense, know what to do about it without even seeing the test results. This one, I almost like I need the test results to have those very specific metrics on what to do. And there's a couple of different things we can look at. I always start with this one because it looks at like the most number of markers. It looks at 75 different things. We'll walk through a couple on the next slide. It looks at that bacterial and yeast overgrowth. It looks at nutrient deficiencies. It looks at a lot of different metabolism markers. I can even tell if you fast too much from this, or like your neurotransmitters are off. I can look at so much information. But we could go even more in depth. You've probably heard of a GI map. This is this version basically of a GI map. It's the specific species of bacteria in your gut because you're taking a stool sample for this one, where this one is a urine sample. Stool samples, my husband went in there with a gas mask because he was like, oh, so grossed out about it. But anyway, they're not that bad. But it's not as easy, I guess, as a urine collection. So it's looking at bacteria, specific species, so I can see if there are pathogenic bacteria in there and what species they are. We can also look for parasites, which I think is a hot topic. A lot of people say, oh, you have parasites, you should test for them or do a parasite cleanse. Truly, if you're drinking clean water, you're not eating like raw like fish. Hey, sushi, I love it. But if you're not having a lot of these like places where you could get parasites in the US, it's maybe less than 20-30% have parasites. That's still not nothing. But everyone's like, everyone has a parasite. And I don't think that's true. But it's really insightful if you do have parasites that it could include worms or like liver flukes or protozoa, things like that. So that could come up. And then the last test I want to mention is mold. This is one of my newer certifications, and I freaked out about it. I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many things of where mold could show up that I didn't know about, like coffee and nuts. Milk even can have like different types of mold. I was like, oh my gosh. So I wigged out, like went and tested everything, did the mold test, tested my home for mold. My home doesn't have mold, but water damage is probably the biggest source of mold. And so we do live in a newer home. We don't have water damage, but I was so freaked out about mold because of how impactful it is on your health and your immune system. And so this one, if there's something underlying, like mold absolutely could be like what's going on at that lower level. Let's talk about the Candida metabolic and vitamins test first. I won't go into mold. I won't go into the parasites too much. I'll just touch on them, but I want to talk about this one because this is like, if you were to say, hey, I want to do a test, this is one of the two. I would say, let's start with this. I'll tell you why. My daughter, this is obviously super personal. My daughter had issues with ear infections. She had enlarged adenoids. She got sick super easily. She just had ear infections, like one after another, like to the point they're like, we need to get tubes in her ears. And we never did, but she had a lot of ear infections. And so I took her to the doctor and we got antibiotics. And we were trying to give her good nutrition. We were trying to do these things, but she kept getting sick. And so that happened. And then we were taking her to gymnastics and she started getting in like her elbow pit and her leg pit and under her arms. She started getting molluscum, which is like it's a bump. It comes from a virus. It's not super painful for most people, but it started to become like kind of blistery and painful for her. And it just wouldn't go away. It was there. She had it for years, like years. This was years. And then my son got it and we're like, okay, like she almost like had to put band-aids on so we could go to summer camp because otherwise they would send her home for open wounds. And we're like it's a virus. And we went to the dermatologist and we went to the doctor and we went to the pediatrician. They're like, you can't do anything about it. So we're like, okay, cool. Like, here's conventional medicine saying can't do anything about it. The dermatologist said, well, it's painless. So like we could burn it off, but that's going to cause her more pain. I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to do that either. So conventional medicine telling me I couldn't do anything about it. Then we found a functional medicine doctor. And this one she was a DO, has a medical degree. And she was like, you need to do a GAI map test. So going back, let me see if I can go back, going back and doing like a stool sample, basically this. And what it came back as is like, she has nothing pathogenic, nothing is overgrown. She has no parasites. She just doesn't have a lot of beneficial bacteria. So we think you should give her a probiotic. And I was like, oh my God, I just spent like over $1,500 for you to tell me to give my daughter a probiotic. And it was like no explanation, no emphasis on nutrition. Like this was what kind of founded my program because I was like, I want to give you all every single piece of information, hopefully without overwhelming you, but I want to give you every single tool you can because that answer was not acceptable for me. I just stopped working with her. I was like, what am I going to show up for the next 3 calls for? She took a probiotic again today and like nothing's better. And it just kept going on. And I was super frustrated. Now, fast forward, I went and got certified as this. I gave her this super easy test where she peed in a cup. It looked at 75 different markers. And hey, it came back. These are her test results. It came back that she had 4 different microbial markers for like very big, massive yeast overgrowth. And I was like, oh, it's so funny that you told me nothing was wrong except she needed a probiotic. And yet here's another test that you didn't even recommend. You didn't even give me another place to go. And it came back so easy and clearly telling me that she has yeast overgrowth. So we did what's called the CBO optimizer. It is, there's a different version, like a more gentle version for kids. It's still pretty gentle for adults, but I gave her the kids version and voila, look at that. It went away. Yes, we also adjusted her nutrition. But since she hasn't been sick, we haven't needed to go on antibiotics. I skipped the whole part about we had to go to an allergist because she started getting all these welts. So there was like a whole nother part of her story. She was getting all these welts and like the nurse was calling me like every other day, like, you need to pick your daughter up. She's having like an anaphylactic reaction. Her allergy panel came back. She's allergic to nothing. So we went to the allergist. Why is she getting all these welts, all these hives? I don't know. Oh, guess what? She had massive yeast overgrowth. So I couldn't look at her and know that. I went to 4 doctor professionals and none of them could tell me what's going on. And here I am without a medical degree, peeing, having her pee in a cup. And just like that, I could be like, oh, here's what's going on. And I want to prevent you. If you are having symptoms like this, I want to prevent you from going through the years, literal 3.5 years of frustration because there is something that we can do about it. And it's pretty straightforward. So anyway, I'll stop my rant. I will show you some other test results, but ultimately I want you to know that there is something we can do about it. Might not be the very first thing, but I will help you figure out what's going on and help support you every step of this way. Breath. All right. Here's another test result. This is a different person, but the reason I put it on there is because she didn't have any symptoms. She didn't have bloating. She didn't have like what I would say is issues here. She wanted to lose weight. We did this test. We looked at some things. She came back that she had high markers of C. diff, which is the pathogenic bacteria, and other markers of other bacteria. We didn't do a stool test. She did have one marker of high um, yeast mold markers. And so I was like, okay, like you have a lot going on. We also did this CBO optimizer. We added something called citricidal drops for these, the pathogenic bacteria. And she started feeling better pretty much within 3 weeks of that and has now been able to lose weight. That was her sole goal. And yet I'm like, you actually have something pretty serious going on that people would probably give you antibiotics for, but we're going to do more holistically and naturally. So just a different example and what we did about it. We can look at Parasites, like I mentioned. In this particular case, they didn't have any pathogenic, like dysbiotic flora, but they had pretty high levels of other ones, like E. coli. That shouldn't be a +4. That was high. Clostridium, like these were higher than I wanted to see. So they also had bacteria overgrowth of things I would expect, but higher levels than we'd want to see. And in a different test, they had protozoa. They had parasites in their test. So things that we could do, we could go back and do that CBO protocol. We could do a parasite protocol. Like there are things we could do about that. And then the mold toxicity test, just so you can say mold tox test. We're looking at different mold species. Here are some examples. There's 12, so I didn't go through all of them. But it could come back anywhere from optimal, elevated, or high in all these different ones. These could come from things, even like coffee, milk, nuts, right? Food, different types of food that could be causing mold. It could be in your home or your office or your car, and you could have mold impacted from that. And so obviously the mold protocol is what you would do about it if you did have high markers, in addition to an immune protocol. Okay, so summary of that. It's so much. It's so fascinating to me what we can learn. And all three of those tests, you might not have had symptoms. You might have had like brain fog. You're like, oh yeah, this is normal. I'm just busy. But it's actually a parasite, right? So it's good to know what's going on instead of being like, I'm just going to eat better. Great, you're eating better, you're not seeing results. Now what can we do to really know more in depth what's going on? There are, like I said, there's a lot of tests we could do. I'm lumping these in together to look at inflammation and other toxicities. Um, no one has a perfect diet, right? Even if you're eating pretty clean, you might not be getting enough nutrients. You might still be stressed out. If you're stressed out, you might not be absorbing as much as you should, or hey, if you have mold and like you're just not picking up the right amounts of things, or hey, like you have really high pesticides in your body, toxin exposure. So you're not getting the nutrients you think you are because they're going to support other parts of your body. So these labs just show those missing links and what's causing the silent inflammation. All right, so here's all of the like symptoms. If you feel like you're eating well, 4 months, not for like 3 days or five, like even 4 or 5 weeks, like this would be months, and you're still not losing weight and you still feel like you're depleted. You're still exhausted. Your hair's coming out. Could be thyroid, but it could be toxicities. Slow recovery after workouts. Poor focus, brain fog, right? Digestive issues, inflammatory pain. This could be like rheumatoid arthritis, like things going on. There's stuff that you could do, right? We could optimize this. Food sensitivity is a really good place to start. I know in the beginning of my protocol, I recommend that everyone do a low inflammatory diet, and that would include getting rid of gluten, getting rid of dairy, getting rid of eggs for at least 3 weeks. And I recommend this. I obviously give you an informed choice, but I do recommend it. And then we reintroduce them slowly because I want to see how you feel. I know that I have a dairy sensitivity. Almost every adult does because we're not necessarily supposed to have milk, especially cow's milk. Where like human breast milk, like as a kid, we wouldn't have a sensitivity to that. But even like goat's milk and sheep's milk tend to be easier on our body because the proteins there is different. Anyway, most adults are sensitive to dairy. And I get farty. Like I fart when I have dairy. I know it's not good for my stomach. I get lower back inflammation when I eat cheese. I like cheese is the problem. And so I just sometimes will eat it not every day and not most days, let's say. So occasionally I will eat it and just know what I'm coming in for. But knowing these sensitivities helps you avoid things that cause inflammation in your body. Okay. I'll show you a couple. Like someone was telling me, oh yeah, I have almond milk every day in my smoothie and I add peanut butter to it. And yet they're like off the charts on almond and peanut. I'm like, oh, you are in a stage of constant inflammation. No wonder you can't lose weight. Like I understand this now. So it kind of all goes back to having this like ideal state for your body. And the more information you know about it, the better aligned you can be to get your results. Okay. Another one I like because it's so easy. Food sensitivity is a good one. Minerals and metals is easy. You take like a little piece of hair from the back of your head. It's pretty small and you won't notice it. And it looks for heavy metals and it looks for mineral deficiencies. And taking like an element salt packet is probably not enough. There's other things. So I'll show you actually my lab results on this one for that minerals and metals test. All right, starting with food sensitivity. Moving my face so you can see that food sensitivity. Here's a couple, but there's 190 foods they test. They test a lot of fruits and vegetables. They test everything from meat. They test they just test a lot of things. Like someone has come up high for wakame seaweed, which is seaweed salad. I came up high for like miso soup, which I love, and that's a problem because I still love it. And so things can come up. There's a lot of fruits and vegetables that don't pop up as high for most people, but it's fascinating when surprising things do. I've had someone pop up high for ginger, which is supposed to be anti-inflammatory, and yet it's causing them inflammation. I've had someone else for a couple other people for pineapple, actually. Here's the ones for almonds and peanuts. Peanuts, I would expect. Almonds, maybe less so. Okay. Looking at dairy, this one is pretty typical. So casein, which is like a protein found in dairy, cow's milk is usually pretty high, and then yogurt is usually pretty high for most people. Where goat's milk or sheep's milk, those tend to be lower. And so those are really interesting when we look at this. Same thing for eggs. I would say about 50% of the people that I do this lab for, 50% come back as being inflamed for eggs. And you might be looking at this and you're like, but it's in the green. Anything above a 5, I call high. And so something that would cause a sensitivity, just so you are aware of that. So what do? We avoid it. This is an adjusting nutrition by avoidance. There are some things you could take. Most people would probably benefit from digestive enzymes if they have digestive issues. It helps lower the pH in your stomach, helps add more hydrochloric acid, helps break down your food more easily, even in your saliva, like the whole process of breaking down food. And so that can be supportive and helpful. And then if I eat dairy, I'm going to take my dairy support because it's going to just help me bounce back quicker, knowing that I have an inflammation. Same thing for gluten. Now I've had some people take this test and they were in the red or orange for like a lot of things, almost everything on the test. They also had high TPO antibodies, right? When we were looking at the thyroid, they also had other things going on with cortisol. Their hormones were out of whack. They had gut dysbiosis. And so they had other things going on that was causing more sensitivity from an immune response. So it's not always this is where you are at forever. It's not an allergy. What you can do is work on gut health and actually try it again later, and you probably will be less reactive if you work on gut health. So there's a whole protocol called healthy belly and healthy gut support, and that helps you do that. So I can chat with you about that as well. And then I want to talk about minerals and metals test. This was my lab results. So when I first did it, I had low sodium and potassium, which was interesting because I took element packets, not regularly and usually not the whole packet, but I would drink an element pretty regularly, and I put salt on my food. My body was flying through it, trying to keep me from a stressed place and bring it down. And so I was oxidizing things way faster than I should and running through all these nutrients that I was getting and not absorbing them. What was really interesting, I don't love iron on this test. I think there's other better tests, but I was low in copper, I was low in chromium and selenium. Okay, selenium's really key for thyroid. So when I took this test, I was also coming up as hypothyroidism. My thyroid wasn't working as well. Well, hey, I wasn't giving it the one key nutrient that it really needed. I was super low on it. And so I've added in the right nutrients. Hey, guess what? My thyroid started working better, among everything else, right? And so we look at this holistically. There are things we can do more than just take a supplement, but how can we really optimize exactly what your body needs? I also had high mercury and aluminum. This one I know is from eating sushi. I try and eat less sushi. I also did a heavy metal detox, so it wasn't just sitting in there. It sits in your fat. The more fat you have, the more you are more likely to accumulate these environmental toxins. And so as I was losing weight, I was releasing these metals, but also I needed to stop bringing the source in. So adjusting food and environment. Aluminum, I was super interested about this because I don't use aluminum deodorant. I wasn't using like aluminum dry shampoo, like all of these regular sources of aluminum. What was interesting, I was drinking a lot of sparkling water out of an aluminum can. And so that was a shift that I had to change because that's where I think it was coming in more than anything. So I ask a lot of questions when we get these results back. Could it come from this? Like we go through it and then work on lifestyle changes. Okay. And then all of the environmental, like all of kind of the catch-all. So when we look at the environmental toxicity one, this person, they were a contractor. They were around paint a lot. They were around all these volatile organic compounds. This person had a backyard farm that backed up to the backyard. And so they were getting pesticides like atrazine, which is super carcinogenic, just being around farmland. Okay. How do you change that, right? Like there's not much we can do except for focus on nutrition and focus on the good stuff going in unless you are willing to move. But there are still things we can optimize in the short term. There's omega-3 test. I'll be truly honest with you. I would skip this test. It is very eye-opening because omega-3s are important. This person had a 3.5%, and this is way low because I want it up here, like above 8 to 11. This is going to give you information about heart health. And so sometimes it's just eye-opening that you need to make a change or you have a really good chance of heart disease down the line. Okay. Knowing that, what do you do to make a change? I'll just tell you it so you can skip the test. What you do is you add in fish and or fish oil pills every day. For the fish oil pills, fish like salmon, mackerel, or sardines. I would say at least 3 days a week, if not 4. That's going to help you optimize it. Okay. Those are the things to do. You could also add in some plants that have higher omega-3s, and that would include like hemp seeds and things like that, flaxseed, but that's not probably going to be enough. The other part is lowering your omega-6 ratio, and omega-6s come from usually animals that are fed a conventional like corn diet. So any CAFO operations of like confined animal feeding operations of meat, and also anything processed is going to have like all those seed oils, which is going to have higher omega-6s. So eating healthier fats like olive oil or avocado oil or coconut oil, taking your fish oil pills and eating actual fish. Those are the healthy swaps to make because that makes a big difference for your brain health, brain fog, heart disease, all the things. Okay. And then the last one, this was a neurotransmitter test. The one I was like super interested in was dopamine. This person was like, I'm beyond stressed out. I'm like, so where are you getting your dopamine? She's like, I do a lot of binge eating. I'm like, okay. So every time you binge eat, you're getting your dopamine strike. Every time you scroll your phone, you're getting the dopamine. Like there are so many sources in today's world of dopamine. In addition to all the others, I'll just focus on one right now. So how do we change it, right? We shift our habits, we shift our daily routines, potentially supplements in the short term, but we have to do these lifestyle adjustments and we have to focus on stress, food, nutrition, water. You hear probably a bit of a trend there. Okay, so that kind of a summary of what we were looking at in all of it. All right, I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm not going to go any deeper with the lab tests because I have a feeling I am already overwhelming you and you're like, where do I start? This feels overwhelming. This is a lot of information. Know that I'm looking for these things. So every time we shift phases, I'm like, hey, we're at the end of phase 1, we're moving into phase 2. You get a list saying, here, what symptoms are you experiencing? Because I'm looking at it. When I look at your weigh-ins and your progress pictures and your feedback every week on your check-ins, I'm looking for this because there are things we can do to optimize it in the short term. Some of them are a little more woo-woo than others, like helping your liver detoxify better by adding a castor oil pack in your belly button or above your liver. Like we can go there. I have tons of information, but I don't want to overwhelm you. We start with the core 4. That's where we are going to start. But there's so much more we can not see at the surface level. So that is why the tests help us to know what's going on, especially in the gut. So we are not just randomly doing this, we're getting you results as quickly as possible. All right. This is what I tell everyone. You get this in the very first protocol that I write once you sign up. I recommend that everyone starts with the functional medicine detox. It gives you an option of 7, 14, 21 days. Obviously, the longer you do it, the better you're going to feel, the better your body's going to feel. Here's what it does. It adds in a lot of nutrients. This is a protein powder. Being very upfront and honest with you, I don't think it tastes very good. It's natural cocoa is what it's this one is flavored with, the vanilla one is flavored with vanilla bean, and then the cafe latte one is flavored with coffee beans. So they don't have natural flavorings or artificial flavorings, and they don't taste the best. But guess what? This is the best protein powder that you can use that I have found. If I found another one, I would recommend it. Anyway, in addition to the protein, it has an entire 2 panels of all the vitamins in it. So it's a multivitamin plus a protein powder. And for the cost, I haven't found one more quality at a better price. And I just think the quality is unmatched because it's mold free, it's heavy metal free. It's like it is just the best protein powder. If you find a better one, send it to me. I'm open to finding a better option. This has been it. In the detox, you take like a double dose of this. So you are flooding your body with nutrients, which is super helpful. Most of us are very nutrient deficient. At the same time, you're adding in herbs, not prescriptions, not anything crazy, adding in gentle herbs to help your body already do what it's going to do, which is heal you and flush out toxins through your liver and your kidneys. It's just going to add in things to help do it better. When it says detox, that's what it means. It helps your body detoxify toxins better than it would normally by adding nutrients and like helping your liver. There is an option, and people freak out. They're like, I can't not eat. I don't care if you do the fasting days, truly, because you're adding in the good meals anyway, and I'll walk you through all those steps. But you don't have to do the fasting days if you don't want to. Okay. Make that super easy. I'm doing a community detox on January 5th. I'm doing it with my whole Facebook group, like the free Facebook group. So you are welcome to join. All you gotta do is get the detox. However long you want, you're welcome to join. I'll be walking through it, and there'll be like a community thread every day. The other place to start, if you want to do some lab testing, I love this test because I like looking at hormones and stress. And I think that really aligns with what a lot of people are looking for. Reminder, one looks at insulin and metabolism, and one looks at like the fertility markers. So I can help you decide between them. If you want to look at gut tests, this is the one to start with. We can definitely, obviously, add more, but this is the 2 tests that I would recommend starting with, one of the 2. When you start, I would do one at a time so then we can follow a protocol of like, here's the next steps. Sometimes those take a couple months. So we're not doing a bunch of protocols at once, one thing at a time. We'll do a deeper dive if needed. We'll reevaluate symptoms, like completely chat as we go through it. And these are the ones that I would do after that. Not necessarily in any order. That mold one, like the more I learn, I'm like, wow, I really want to make sure if you have symptoms of mold, I want to make sure that that is out of your system. That hair tissue mineral analysis test, like that one is another good one because heavy metals can absolutely impact even how you feel about stress. It can impact metabolism and so on. Same thing with parasites, toxins, and so on. Yeah. So I can help you figure out where to go from here. When I was doing this live, I did pause. I was like, questions so far. But since I am doing the recording, I will just keep going for this. The second part, and this part's shorter, just as a heads up. The second part is I want to talk about biohacking. So once you are doing all the things in your control with the core 4, you're eating well, you're exercising, you're sleeping, that is so understated, and you are getting enough water, and you do the tests. I would even do the test before some of this biohacking. This is kind of the next level. What I don't want you to think is that, oh, I'm just going to get in a sauna and it's going to solve all my problems, or I'm going to dry brush, or I'm going to do a coffee enema. It's going to solve all my problems. I would say this is like the last thing I would do, but it's just optimizing to make everything even more aligned and improving health even more. So what you're doing when you're biohacking, you're optimizing how your body and mind perform. So it's like thriving, being that next best high performance level of yourself. It is a bit of self-experimentation because you have to figure out what makes sense for you. So, for example, I'll tell you cold plunging is very popular. My husband gets a lot of benefit out of it, and I hate it. So, you have to have a purpose going in. You kind of have to track a little bit about what's going on. And I can help you with that, of course, as we're working together, because we really can fine-tune your energy, your metabolism, your sleep, your mood. But it has to be very intentional, if that makes sense. And it's not extreme, but it can be very different from what you have seen before, but it's making these changes that kind of compound into overall health. All right, so there are a lot of things we can do. I always am going to recommend that you start with the foundation first, which is sleep and movement, including enough protein, getting enough water, veggies, right? All those things. Then you could do some advanced strategies in addition to your lab work and then tracking your data. So let's walk through some things. I'll tell you brands when I have them. This brand is called Therasage. I'm including this one first because it's at the top of my own Christmas list and I am excited. I went to a conference a few weeks ago. At the conference, this company was there. I liked this company. There's a ton of them out there. Some of them are like $100. The full size body one is closer to 1,000. They do have a smaller like chair size one that's like I think one of them's 400, one of them 700. So they have different sizes. The difference that I liked with this one, it combines red light technology, it has heat, it has these gemstones from blue zones, and it also has tens, which I actually tore my bicep tendon. I had an injury last summer, and so the tens is part of what my physical therapist did to add more blood flow there to increase healing. Okay, so backing up, this one has like four different things. You also see a lot of these red light masks that simply have red light. So what does red light do for your body? It basically promotes healing, which is good for anti-aging. It's good for if you have things in your body that need healing, even improving just overall health. And what it does is it makes your mitochondria recover faster because it improves blood flow. And so you basically heal faster and you look like it's for longevity. You look younger because your skin is healthy. Another one I don't know if this is like a tool per se, but juicing, I really stand by. In case you didn't know my background, I used to own a juice bar and we would make cold pressed juice, which is the highest quality of juice. It's not using a centrifugal juicer, which is like kind of heats it up. And then it gets it actually kind of looks like this, where it's like separated. Cold pressed juice is much higher quality. So I can talk to you about juicers as well, but my opinion is that juicing is really, really beneficial because when we are coming from such a nutrient deficient state, we need to add nutrients. And we might not be able to physically eat that many vegetables because they take up a lot of space. So having a lower calorie, lower sugar, green juice or something similar every day is a good way to add in that nutrient dense veggies. Not saying it can't be no sugar, or you can't have a little bit of sugar, but you don't want one that's like a sugar bomb with like a lot of pineapple, a lot of apple. Those are pretty typical because you just don't need that much sugar. Our body shouldn't have that much fruit. It's like an entire pineapple can fit into a juice jar, which is not ideal. A little bit is good, too much, not so good, but veggies we always need more veggies. So leafy greens in there, cucumber. I like a little bit of apple. You could put beets and carrots in there. Turmeric and ginger is good. You could put in some citrus. They're all very good for your body. Whole food is always super good, but I would tend toward the more veggie forward and the less fruit forward ones because I think that would overall be a better choice. Infrared saunas, probably number two on my Christmas list, but truth be told, I don't know if we have space for this in my house and they're fairly large. I'd rather get the red light mat, but maybe my husband will surprise me with the sauna. We'll see. I'll let you know if he does. This is a whole room where you can get a sauna mat or even the PMF mats have the heat, but this is like detoxification on another level. So when you have those environmental toxins and they're trapped in your fat, how do you access them? You heat up your body you sweat it out and you get rid of them. So that's really good if you did show up with high pesticide loads or high VOC loads or anything like that, heavy metals, you want to get rid of them through detoxification. And sauna is a really great way to do it. Infrared saunas in particular are dry heat. They're going to elevate your core temperature more and the outside less. So there are other types of saunas, but infrared, I would say is my personal preference. It's also really good for fat metabolism because your heart rate goes up. It's like you're doing cardio, but you're not running. And that's good for your body. And it's going to just increase your metabolism as well. Cold plunging, kind of the exact opposite. We have a cold plunge. My husband bought the brand plunge, which is like the best brand name. Sits in our garage, takes up a lot of space. He uses it. I'll give him credit for that. I hate it. I only get in there as like a competition of like, well, I can stay in here longer than you. There are a lot of benefits. I just really hate cold. It is very good for your cortisol stress response. It lowers your inflammation. It actually changes your fat from being a white fat to a brown fat, so you metabolize better. It's good for a lot of things. It's good for his mindset, and that's what he uses it for, is like when he needs to think his way through problems, he gets in the cold plunge. Anyway, that's what I gotta say. It's not my personal favorite. I hate cold, but it's probably good for me. I probably should do it. Dry brushing. This is like a really easy one. I actually have this dry brush. I got it through Equilife, and what it does is it basically promotes lymphatic drainage, which gets rid of toxins and stimulates your lymphatic system. That's your immune system. It also makes your skin like a little brighter. So that's nice. But it gets rid of toxins. That's what it's there for. Coffee enemas. Let's talk about these. I know a lot about them because I know people that do them. Even cancer centers are like a holistic cancer center is going to recommend that you do coffee enemas even fairly regularly. I know some people that do it like once a year or once a quarter, more for like an overall health thing. Personally, being very honest, I've never done this because I'm totally wigged out about the idea of adding coffee into your butt. Let me know if you've not tried it. I'm so interested, but I just can't wrap my brain around it. So what you do is you add room temperature, not hot coffee, into this bag. You add the tube into your butt. You put the coffee in there and you hold it there for about 10 or 15 minutes and then release it. And what it does is it's supposed to make you feel amazing because it stimulates your liver, pulls out all the toxins pretty much immediately, which makes your body feel great. So I've heard a lot of good things. I know people have done this as part of their cancer recovery. I know multiple people that have done this as part of their cancer recovery. I've just never gotten to this point where I'm like, I want to try this. So if I do, I'll let you know how it goes. Yeah, might be a good conversation. All right, molecular water. This is something that is also on my list, high on my list of like what I would do next. We live in a town, so we have town water. I know it doesn't have certain toxins like the PFAS, PFAS, doesn't, and so on. Like it doesn't have the nitrates. However, it does have chlorine and fluorine and other things. And so there are toxins that we are getting. Fluoride is good. Like I know it helps our teeth, but I also don't need to like drink it and bathe in it. So I think it like figuring out what makes sense there. If I were to drink water, this is what I would prefer because this water is hydrogen rich. It has more molecules of H2 instead of obviously just H2O. H2 is something that's going to very easily bind to oxygen, which means it's an antioxidant. Oxygen actually breaks down things. So for example, when you see like rust out in like on a trailer or on metal out in the, yes, it's done by water, but that rust is actually breaking down. That's kind of what's happening in our body is when we have oxygen, we get these more free radicals. We get these, I won't go too sciencey. It does put our body in an oxidative stressed state. And we want to change that so we don't break down things. We don't break down our cells as easily. So it's a bit alkaline. It helps achieve this better internal pH. We absorb it better. ultimately it's going to put our body in a healthier state. So drinking it, you can actually even wash your produce in it, which is why produce is shown here. There's another tool that I'll show you, which is ozone, and both of those together, adding ozone into molecular water and then rinsing your produce, not drinking ozone, but adding it into your water can help you just get the pesticides off of your produce as well. So that can be really beneficial. So molecular water, good for hydrating and drinking directly, good for adding with ozone to wash your produce. You don't have to pay to biohack. So there are some additional things you could do. So walking through the easy ones, go for walks, drink water, have a cool dark room to sleep in, get morning sunshine on your face like we would if we were in nature. Those are very easy, and I don't think I need to necessarily explain them. You may not have heard of EFT tapping or breath work. So let's talk about those. So EFT tapping is this idea of tapping different pressure points in your body. And you like start with your hand and then go to your head and then do your forehead and then your eye and then your cheekbone and then your mustache. If, hopefully you don't necessarily have one of them, but you know what I'm talking about. And then your chin and then your collarbone and then under your bra line and then continuing to do it. And while you are doing this, you are thinking of either affirmations or releasing negative energy. So you could say, the one I use, I follow a mentor called Denise Duffield Thomas. She talks a lot about this in her money boot camp of like money limiting beliefs, but let's talk about any limiting beliefs. Let's talk about worthiness, because we know that that's a root cause of feeling not deserving to take care of our health. So you could say, even though I don't know, I feel fat and I couldn't button my pants today because I ate too many holiday cookies, I am someone who loves and deeply accepts myself. So you start thinking of that, and then you kind of get rid of the like excuse, like even though I ate 25 holiday cookies, I don't know whatever it is for you, even though I ate that slice of pumpkin pie and I was supposed to be eating clean today, I accept and deeply love and appreciate myself, right? Like you can continue saying these things. And so ultimately what your body does is it releases those negative feelings and replaces them with that calm and affirming belief of I love and accept myself. Or you could say, even though in the past I have been someone who binge eats, I am always improving on having regular meals throughout the day. It's just putting this new identity of yourself as being this healthy person, this healthy version of yourself into place and telling your body and moving the energy to make it more likely and focusing on it. That's really a big part of it. Kind of giving yourself that space. Breath work is similar, but while you're thinking these things, you're more putting your nervous system in a calm state so you can move that energy differently. So it's still a way to move energy, still a way to rewire your nervous system. It's still a way to calm down and improve your mindset, but it does it through breathing. And usually you're listening to either affirmations or a breathwork teacher. You might be listening to like sound or crystal bowls, but they're telling you to breathe. And essentially you hyperoxygenate yourself, which changes how our hormones are, changes our cortisol levels, and ultimately rewires our nervous system to calm the F down. I went to a breathwork session. I've been to a few in the past month. I went to one just this week, and I'm hoping that I can work with this teacher to add this in for my Metabolic Mastery program and bring in guest speakers to do this. I'm learning more about it, but I don't know if I would say I'm even qualified to run a breathwork session yet. Maybe in the future. I might bring in guest speakers for both of the EFT tapping and breathwork. Yeah, let me know if you'd like to do that. You can also get lots of tools to help you. And thinking of Black Friday, I know there's going to be a ton of sales coming up for this. I want to move to an Aura ring. I've had Apple Watches in the past. I've had Fitbits in the past. My husband's done the Whoop band. I have not had a continuous glucose monitor because I haven't so much been interested personally on my glucose levels, but that can be really helpful as well. These tools are very similar. Ultimately, yes, you're getting your steps, but you can get other information from them as well on stress, recovery, your HRV rates, lots of information that you can dial in. But who cares if you're not eating good food and you're not exercising and you're not sleeping, right? If you're not even attempting to go to sleep for a full 8 hours, don't get this to see if your sleep is good. These are just next level if you're already doing the foundation. So I have some links here for all of my favorites. The other link that's separate, these are all Amazon links. The other link that's separate is the walking pad. Just to give you whatever sale they have, you can stack an extra 10% off with that code. Megan 502. I'm giving you an extra bonus because I liked this one. This is the brand name walking pad. Apparently they trademarked it and then everyone went and stole their trademark. And I talked to these people at the conference and I didn't, so I obviously became an affiliate, right? But the only reason I did is because number one, they are the originators of it. And they're like, yeah, did you ever have one and it fell apart and it did this and this? I'm like, yeah. They're like, yeah, the other ones are really crap. Ours doesn't do this. We have a guarantee. We have all of these things. Like people have had them for years. I'm like, oh, duh. Like that makes so much sense. So anyway, they're a much more quality brand, just like all of these, honestly, are all quality. Um, don't go for the cheap stuff just because it's cheap. I've been targeted by another similar Aura ring. It's like $45 or whatever. I just don't think cheap is going to get you to where you want to go. It's not going to get you the information you need or the quality that you need to hold up for years. So just invest in the thing. And yeah, that's my 2 cents for it. Same thing with all of these. All of these are the next level brands. The only thing I didn't include was the brand name for Plunge because these are all from like Therasage. So TheraPro, I don't know what their mask is called, and then TheraFrost, just because I really liked that brand. And this one is easier to break down. Ours takes up a lot of space. For juicers, this is the Nama J2 juicer because this is the only one that I found that does a good cold pressed juice. The rest are masticating or centrifugal, and I don't like them. So this is definitely my home brand preference. If you want to spend another, like this one's probably in the $500-$600 range. If you want to spend $1,200 or more, I can get you a better brand. But this is like, yeah, I think it's $599 or something. But that's going to give you the best quality for something at home. This is an ozonator for getting ozone, that PMF mat, the dry brush. This is my favorite water bottle, Owala. So couple just tools to help you with all of the things. And as I wrap this up, I want to spend a few more minutes talking about my next level program. This is a one-on-one coaching program. It is next level support, but it's also next level strategies and testing. And so if you want to do a deeper dive, this is true even if you started as a group coaching member or a one-on-one member, this is continuing. So once you complete those first 4 months, you have an option to continue at the group price level. And my group price level, that's not the one-on-one texting. We communicate through Trainer Eyes and through the group calls. In addition, you don't get those one-on-one phone calls every month. We do that again through the group calls, and you don't get the lab testing, right? So we are focusing on the core four in the group program, which makes sense. You've been doing that already. But if you wanted to ramp it up, you're like, okay, I have seen some progress and I want to see more progress. I want to streamline my results. This is the next level. So next level support. It will include lab data to really give us more of that personalized insight of how do we do this even faster? What is going on and holding you back? How can we improve things? It's like months, essentially months 5 through 12 or beyond at a one-on-one coaching level. So what are we doing during this time? We are talking other systems. We're talking about how do we rewire our nervous systems. Yes, I could tell you all about EFT tapping and affirmations, but I'm going to be bringing in guest speakers to help me with this, guest speakers to help with the breath work, mindset, even other strategies. I have someone that I'm chatting with who is talking about males, and he's like, I work with women, right? He works with men. So if you want to help your whole family, talking about strategies for your kids, like other systems of how do we improve not just your health, but everyone around you. We can look at all your data. So we can pull up your HRV, your sleep, your recovery, all these things, and we can look at that together. All of this enhanced support. Okay. That is, I think, everything I said. All right. So what is included? Number one, the biggest difference is that I'm including, like it's already included in the price, these comprehensive functional medicine labs. So in the very first month, we're going to order your first test. Okay, so that's already included in the price. Every roughly 4 to 5 months, we're going to order another test. So you can continue on as long as you want. We can do more testing quicker, but we're essentially focusing on changing one thing at a time. So we're looking for those root causes, hormones, gut health, toxins, inflammation, nutrient deficiencies. We're doing one thing at a time, focusing on it. Then also included, I'll come back to this. Also included is the one-on-one coaching, right? You get access to me working with me one-on-one. That includes the tech support, the private check-ins weekly instead of doing them on the group call, monthly one-on-one calls, obviously protocol tweaks as often as necessary, and that's for everybody. But we're doing those next level strategies, guest experts, having those sessions that are really tailored to reducing your stress and enjoying life more, and then walking you through every step of that nutrition and movement plan. So this is where most people start, right? We start with the healing, the anti-inflammatory, all of the things. Then we do the ignite. That's a calorie deficit. So calorie deficit is usually where most people start for the first 4 months. And then they plateau somewhere around months 4 to 6 because you're no longer in a true calorie deficit. Your body has adapted because that's what our bodies do. So we need to go into a reverse diet. I call that the build phase. During that time, we increase calories, we increase exercise, we really build our muscles. We build out your butt, make it look great, build the muscles underneath your shoulders and so on, so that when we go back into a calorie deficit, effortless fat loss is what we get. And then we want to maintain it for life. Okay. So I walk you through that every week. We are saying, hey, here's what we're doing differently. Here's the focus for this week. Here's what we are going to work on. So it's much more targeted, of course, than if you're doing it yourself. It's going to get you quicker results. And lastly, you can continue to get access to the client portal. So that's the Metabolic Mastery Program 2.0. I won't talk too much about this, but I do have a couple people that have upgraded to the next level to my VIP concierge option. We do all the labs to start. We do at least 5 tests to start. And then I just include all the supplements. Everything's included. I just mail them to you. You don't have to think about it. So there is a concierge option to go even higher, even more deep if you want to on the tests. Okay, let's talk pricing, being very, very upfront. This is where the pricing is after your first 4 months and you want to continue with one-on-one coaching, not group coaching. It is $490 a month. That includes your free labs. There's 3 a year. And of course, everything else that I just mentioned. I am doing a Black Friday special on this. I don't know if I'll ever do this price again because it's crazy. I'm giving you over $1,100 in savings. But instead of $490 a month, which is like just under $6,000, you would be getting it for $4,775. You want to do a payment plan? Totally possible. We can do that through a firm, not a problem. Or if you just want to do month to month, it'll be $490 a month. You get obviously an $1,100 discount for committing to that next month's level, doing the 12 months up front. And if you do just your first month, I'm still going to give you your free lab test in there for committing and signing on for an additional month. Now, say you don't want to do the full one-on-one coaching and you just want to do the lab test, like we can do that as well. But these are for the people that are ready to go to the next level. They want to know what's going on more deeply. They want to dive into the lab testing, look at the root cause, and know what's going on. So to jump on this special, obviously talk to me. You have all the ways to access me, whether that's through message, text, email, whatever way I will respond to you. Just tell me you're interested. We'll chat more. This offer is good through November 30th. I don't know if I'll do this again. So to be determined, but I'm not planning on like the next month or in 2 months offering this pricing again. So Black Friday special for sure. So in conclusion, taking a deep breath as I pause, I want you to take this all in. It's so much information. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. I want you to reflect on what you just learned. I'm going to give you these slides. I'll even give you a summary of everything we talked about. I want you to reflect on what sounded most interesting to you. I want you to prioritize one or two things, not 10, not five, one or two things that you want to do next. Do you want to sign on to the Metabolic Mastery program? That'd be cool. I'd love to keep working with you. Or do you want to learn about lab testing? Cool. Do you want to purchase one of these biohacking tools on Black Friday? That's cool too. What are your next steps, right? What do you need to do? Maybe you just need to refocus on your diet. That's a good place to start too. This is very obviously personal. So figure out what makes sense for you right now. If you want to do the test and get the data, that's a good step too. And know where you're going from here. If you're still working in the program, I'm still here to support you. Nothing's changing. But if you are continuing on your own soon, let's make sure you know where you're going and have your personalized roadmap from here. So with that, thank you so much. I will go ahead and actually record this, and links and replay will be sent out shortly. So I'm just so excited that this worked. I'm so excited to be sharing this information with you, and I cannot wait to talk to you soon.